Updates and a lack of communication with FAFSA has created a series of issues this year. With the fall term ahead, students are worried about receiving their aid in time for class. News 4's Lily O'Brien spoke with the local director of financial aid about the delays. So Lily, what did you find out?
Well, Kinsley, the education department released that colleges cannot make bulk corrections. This could leave some students unable to pay their bills and fees by the time they're due. Colleges have been waiting for months to submit corrected financial aid records. Earlier this year, several reports showed incorrect information being reported to institutions. Batching makes it easier for those schools to make quick corrections to incorrect or changed records. Initially, the education department said colleges could submit corrections in bulk in July. Now, financial aid offices will have to submit individual revisions manually. This could delay students getting financial aid, making them unable to pay their bills and fees on time.
I mean, it's definitely the backbone of the education system in the United States. Submitting that financial aid application is the first step to financing it, because probably the biggest barrier to attending school is the financial burden.
The problem started last year in October when an updated version of the FAFSA form was released. From there, a series of processing errors and delays throughout the spring and summer left many families anxious. The FAFSA is the first step for students to receive Pell Grants and federal direct loans.
Both of those funding sources definitely fund the vast majority of students in higher education.
Without funding, students will be unable to receive the education necessary to launch their careers. Now, thankfully, the Alabama Community College system has experienced minimal issues with the delays. Larger institutions are still working through the corrections.
Lily O'Brien, thank you for that report. As schools navigate delays, students should keep an eye on their FAFSA to catch any error before it's too late.